right, now we're going to be moving to a fireside chat with David Christie, President and CEO of Orford Mining Corporation, and Ryan Hanley of Laurentian Bank Securities, one of the event hosts. Ryan, David? The stage is yours.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks. I'll be right behind you.
Yep, sure. Oh, perfect. Well, thanks everybody for joining us here. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ryan Hanley. I'm one of the mining analysts at Laurentian Bank Securities. I'm going to be doing a couple of these fireside chats for the next couple of hours, kicking it off with Dave Christie from Orford Mining, President and CEO. Just maybe I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with the company, but maybe just to refresh everyone, do you want to maybe give us a quick 2-3 minute overview?
Yeah, sure. Do you have a clicker?
Joanne, do you happen to have a clicker for the slides?
Okay.
Yeah, it works.
So Orford is a Quebec-based exploration company. We have 3 key projects in Quebec. One is a nickel sulfide exploration project in the Raglan Belt. Wyloo Metals is earning into that project. They have to spend up to $25 million to earn up to 80% and complete a feasibility study. And we're carried through to that point. We are the operators, and they will spend about $5 million on that project this summer, drilling about 3,000 meters of drilling on some key targets. Then we have 2 gold projects. First of all, the Kikavik project, which sits just north of the West Raglan project in the Raglan Belt. We think it's a brand new gold district up there. For the most part, the Raglan Belt was really ever only explored for nickel. We've discovered high-grade gold at surface across a plus 40-kilometer trend. And we've been drilling a lot of holes there and doing a lot of work over the past few years. Spent only about 29 weeks on the ground because the field season is fairly short there. We believe this summer is going to be a big one for us. Again, we're drilling about 3,000 meters there, 100% owned. And then the Chatel regional plays we have 4 projects there. We just finished drilling one. We think we've hit on what we believe is a low-grade mineralization and close to surface, around a 1-gram material, very thick, from 28 meters to 46 meters in thickness. So we're quite excited about what we think we might have found there. So we have over 1,400 square kilometers in Quebec, most of it 100% owned, or we can own up to 100% through an option. And we're going to spend about $9 million this year, so it's a big year for us.
Perfect. So you've got quite a few projects there. So I guess maybe just starting with West Raglan. So you've got an agreement there with Wyloo. Do you want to maybe talk to us about how that kind of came about, maybe what they saw and the terms of that?
Yeah, so West Raglan is the foundation of our company. It's how we started. When the company was a private company, I was working at the Dundee Group managing money. And a guy named Mark O'Day came to our company with a little company called True North Nickel, which was a private company at the time. And he had picked up a large swath of land that Anglo American had explored in the Raglan Belt. Anglo was up there looking for one large deposit. Well, the style of mineralization in the Raglan Belt doesn't happen like that. They're very potty, lensy deposits. You need to put together a string of pearls, as I call them, to make a deposit. And so it didn't work out for Raglan or for Anglo that way, but for us, we know what you need to find there. So he brought that to me at Dundee, to us at Dundee. We put money into it. And then we made the gold discovery, and that's why we took the company public. So West Raglan is a project that has the same type of grades as they have at the Raglan mine. Raglan is probably one of the lowest cash cost nickel producers in the world right now because of the very high copper and platinum palladium credits they have. So they're producing at close to 0 or negative cash costs right now. We have the same type of grades at our project. If you take the West Raglan mineralization and you give it to a metallurgist, they will think they're looking at Raglan mineralization. So it's exactly the same. So we're quite excited about that. So Wyloo has to spend, like I said, $25 million to get up to 80%. They're a very deep-pocketed group, great technically as well. And so we're continuing to move forward on that. And this summer, we will drill about 15 holes into the highest priority targets we outlined last year. In the summer of 2021, we did a squid EM survey. This is the same type of methodology that they use at the Raglan mine to help increase their success rate in exploration. It helps differentiate between formational conductors and sulfide conductors, which is always a key thing. And so we outlined 435 conductors. 72 of those are high priority conductors, and we're going to drill the top 15. So we've modeled those against the discoveries already made on our properties, so we understand what the sulfides look like in the EM. So we're pretty sure we're going to hit a lot of sulfides this summer. So it should be a very exciting summer at West Raglan.
And then I guess just in terms of the way the agreement's set up, is it mostly, I guess, Wyloo doing all the work and you just kind of work in tandem? Is there like an exploration committee, or do they just kind of run with it and earn their stake?
So like any sort of going towards a JV thing, there's a management committee. And so we meet with those guys once a quarter, and we give them a report once a quarter. We are operating, so we propose programs. They approve them or adjust them, but it's their money. And we move forward on that basis. So right now we're operating, we propose the programs, and we meet with them. They give us their advice. They got some really good guys on their project. Some of them have worked in Canada. They understand the world, and now that they have the Noron guys on their team, they also have that perspective. So
fair, okay. And then kind of looking at the other projects in the portfolio between Joutel and Kikavik, how do you, I guess, rank them? Or how do you, like, for every exploration dollar you've got, how do you divide that up, given that you've got so many targets across a couple of projects?
Well, luckily, we don't have to divide up any dollars on West Raglan, so that was a smart thing we did last year, bringing those guys in. For a little company, having 2 Arctic plays was a little too much for us, so spreading that risk with Wyloo on West Raglan. I sort of look at West Raglan, if an economic deposit's found there, it's a $1.5 billion value, and for Orford, that's a huge valuation bump. So we're excited about that. Between Kikavik and Joutel is much cheaper exploration costs. Let me go back. No, that's not back. There we go. Joutel is, in the Abitibi, so it's by far cheaper cost, probably a third or a fourth of the cost of working up in the Raglan Belt, because of just where it is. And we're drilling, close to surface, near roads. It's just much cheaper. So we don't have to expend the same amount of money on this project. So you can see where we are there. We're sitting in the middle of the Abitibi on the Cadillac Break, have some key properties along the Cadillac Break, just south of the Maple Gold Agnico joint venture. When we looked at this area in 2000, when Quebec basically shut down for exploration for a while, we had been looking for areas that were underexplored, much like we thought the Raglan Belt was. And this area actually had open ground. It was one of the few places, if any, in all of the Quebec side of the Abitibi that had open ground. So we staked quite a few claims, and then we acquired one property through an option agreement. And so very difficult to do in this province is to acquire claims through staking in the greenstone belts. So we are quite excited about that. So we move forward. Basically, we have a project that's in the winter where we can spend money there that's cheap, and then we have our Arctic project at Kikavik. We're excited about both of them equally at this point in time.
Okay. And I guess you tell us a bit more of the more kind of recent area you've gotten into. Is there anything, what I guess made that pop up on your radar specifically compared to all the other kind of projects that are in the region?
Yeah, so I'll go back in my history personally. I'm a geologist by education and training. I worked with Agnico Eagle for many years in the first part of my career. Then I became an analyst and worked with TD and Scotia and then managed money at the Dundee Group. And so as part of that background, I worked in the Joutel region back in the mid-'80s and late '80s, drilling the same trend we're actually sitting on. And so that's part of it. So this trend right in here, actually you probably can't see that, but anyway, the trend just to the west of our Joutel Eagle project. And I knew there hadn't been a lot of work done on it since then. So basically since the beginning of the '80s, middle of the '80s, there's been very little work done in that area. And in 1993, Agnico Eagle closed their gold mine, the Joutel Eagle mine, which was Agnico Eagle's first gold producer. And really since then, there has been very little work until very recently. Us and then the Maple Gold JV announcement shortly after we acquired our claims in the area are really the only two groups that have been working in that area on a consistent basis since. So, it's an area that's been ignored. Agnico closed the mine, people basically walked away, and that's probably why there was claims open to stake in the area. So underexplored areas that haven't seen work in 30 years, I think are key areas to look at.
Okay, makes sense. And then I guess I was kind of literally going all over the map here, but going up to Kikavik, can you maybe talk about a little bit the challenges with, or maybe bring us up to speed on the exploration? Then maybe what are some of the challenges you have to deal with in working in such a remote part of the province? I'm assuming the drilling costs probably get pretty high, and it's a limited drill season, things like that.
Yeah, so Kikavik, we've probably spent about 29 weeks on the ground since we made the discovery there. And the discoveries were made through basic, simple grassroots exploration work, prospecting, taking frost boil samples, and basically banging rocks. And we've made what we believe is a new gold belt discovery. And the area had been ignored. The reason we went in there to start with was there was a couple drill holes that Falconbridge drilled on the property, eastern side of it, where they hit some gold. They were looking for nickel, of course, and walked away. But that's the only work that has been done on this property. So unlike most places in Canada, there's not 40 years of exploration work history to look at. There's basically what we've done, and that's it. So it's really starting from scratch. It's using, some government maps that are very old and exploration methods that go, that layer on the information. So we're 29 weeks into that data gathering issue, and we're starting to build our database to understand the project better. And one thing, that happened early on is we interested a company called Alamos Gold in this project, and they came into our company on our shareholder list for 23% of our company, and they continue to fund us. And having them on our side there and funding us and believing in what we're doing at the Kikavik project has been a key part of our success there to date.
I think you mentioned Alamos, the large shareholder. I think Karora is in there. You've got a pretty good list of major shareholders in there.
Yeah, Karora and Dundee were the two sort of founding shareholders after, I think I mentioned earlier, Mark O'Day was a founder, but he sold out to the Karora guys, or RNC Minerals at the time. And so Dundee and RNC were the two founding shareholders of the private company, so when it went public, they were still there. Karora has been diluted down to quite a bit now. They have their own things going on in Australia, and Dundee is now out of the name, of course. So that's changed completely.
Okay, fair. And then I guess just now that we've gone through each one of the projects, one of the things I always like to ask exploration companies is there's tons of companies out there. We've got a lot of great ones that are here at the conference with us. What makes you different? What's the differentiating factor? Why should people look at Orford over some of the other guys that are out there?
I think it's because we go into belts and we sort of deconstruct what's being done. We're looking at areas that have been totally ignored for the past 30 years, or in the case of Kikavik, since the beginning of time. And we're making discoveries where it counts. You look at what we've done here at Kikavik, the high-grade gold from end to end of this project. We get grades at surface of 648 grams per ton, multi-ounce grades, 288 grams. And we're starting to understand what we're doing here. We do a lot of glacial exploration. We build up the building blocks towards getting towards where our targets are. This summer, we think we're on top of the biggest target we will drill yet, and that's this Anik boulder train. This is a boulder train that's about 3.6 kilometers long. We believe we found the source of that. We're getting high-grade gold and quartz mineralization with lots of sulfides. And you can see these guys in the pit here, they're sitting on top of a very angular boulder that hasn't gone far. And so just south of that, we think we've seen the geology that will be the source of that. So that's where we'll be doing IP work and drilling this summer. So each one of our properties would do the same way. The property at Jetel is the same. We went in there and deconstructed what Agnico had done 30 years ago. And went in and looked at what had happened. They'd hit mineralization in the South Gold Zone down to a depth of about 600 meters and about a width of 300 or 400 meters, but only in little narrow intercepts. But they only sampled little narrow intercepts. So we went back in this year and we drilled a number of holes there to sort of confirm the mineralization, but also to sample the whole hole. And we had big, thick intersections of 1 to 1.24 grams over 28 to 46 meters. So we're sort of taking what's been done in these areas by, long time ago exploration and sort of reinventing the wheel on these projects.
Okay, perfect. We're kind of winding down on time here, but maybe really quickly, just a bit of a wildcard fun question for you. So you've worked on the buy side, you've worked on the sell side, you've worked on the corporate side. Where do you see the industry over the balance of the year and gold price?
Yeah, so for gold, it's going to be a very difficult and volatile year. I don't know if we'll end up higher or lower. I think we're going to see a lot of seesawing gold price over the next probably 12 months to a couple of years. The inflation, they're going to try to beat it down pretty hard here. That's probably going to send us into a recession, which doesn't always work well for gold to start with, but eventually it does. I don't think gold's going to go down a lot, but it's going to really gyrate a lot, which, for junior exploration companies is not always a good thing. But for the guys making money, like your Alamoses and your Agnicos of the world, they're going to be raking in a lot of cash flow.
Yeah, completely agree. Joanne, I've left us with about 3 minutes there. I'm not sure if you want to do questions from the audience or online or... Perfect.
Do we have any questions from the audience? Come on, Terry. You always have a question.
He does.
Lucky you. Okay. Thank you very much, David.
Thanks, Joanne.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Steve.